Welcome, fellow confidence crusaders, neuro nerds, and success equalizers. This is your podcast, Real Confidence. I'm your host, Alyssa DeVere, and I'll be sharing a bit of basic brain science, some surprising social secrets, and a touch of tough love. Why? Because I believe confidence is everyone's fundamental right and choice. So let's get to it. Today, we are going to be talking about something that when I read it, I was like, oh, I got to talk to this person. And this person is with me, Amy Kemp. I'm so glad you're here to talk today about thought habits.
Mm, Different than just habits.
For sure. But before we get into kind of like what it is, well, you know what? Let's just do it. What is a thought habit? Because I want to come
Ugh.
back and talk about how like you even came to this
hmm
space. But what is a thought habit? So people just have a definition of it.
That's such a great question. And one I get a lot. I think sometimes when people hear habits, they think getting up at a certain time or eating certain foods or having good habits with your money or your just the external things that we can measure in terms of our habits. The work I do is very different from that. About 80% of the thoughts that you're having every day are happening at the subconscious level. And so we establish these grooves in our brain because we are hardwired to survive. And so our brains repeat the same patterns to save energy. Most of our subconscious habits of thinking do keep us alive, breathing. There are just certain movements we do that keep our bodies the way that they should be. However, sometimes we also create subconscious habits of thinking that don't serve us in our ability to connect with people, our ability to embrace structure, even the joy we're experiencing or our feeling of value in the world. Those are all also subconscious habits of thinking. And so my work first is in identifying them using an assessment tool, but then also how do you create new grooves that serve you better in your life and work?
I'm so excited to get into this with you. This is something that I've been working on a long time for myself too, to try and understand. So, how did you get into this? I mean, it's not a typical space people are. So,
I
tell us a little
know.
bit about how did you get into it and kind of like, what does that look like in terms of a business? Is it consulting or is it coaching?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the business I'm running for the last 8 years was such an accident. I did not mean to start a business. um, but prior to that, I had worked in sales. I was leading a sales team of over 1,000 people that were spread out across the United States.
Wow.
And a lot of times in that work, I was engaging in personal and professional development work. And I had hired a coach who used this tool called the Habit Finder. And the work that I did with this coach and the curriculum that corresponds with the assessment tool resulted in a tripling of the size of my business, while also resulting in more peace, less work, less craziness. The growth happened it felt like effortlessly, but not without effort. I was working, but it didn't feel like a grind or anything like that. The growth was very natural as a result of my personal growth. So I actually had no intentions of becoming a coach. But this is how some things begin that are the best, right? I continuously had a conversation with women I knew who were in positions of leadership or running businesses or organizations who were exhausted and isolated and just not sure how much longer they could keep going. They had demands at home, they had demands at work. And I was the person they would come to and talk to about it. And most of them were just like on the bleachers while we were watching our kids play a game, or it was at a community event, these conversations. Well, I happened to be in Salt Lake City speaking at an event. I met with my coach who used this tool for dinner because he lives out there. And I just said, I keep having this conversation. I have this feeling I'm supposed to gather these women and that if I could, something really cool could happen. And he said, I think you need to take action on it right away. what? Was not what I thought you would say.
Right. Oh my
What?
gosh, I
I'm
love it.
already running a business, like there's just so many things. So he said, but on Monday, we're starting the training to use the tools I use. And when I tell you, until that moment, I had never considered it. It had never crossed my mind, but I just said yes. I knew in that it was too serendipitous. It was too, there were too many things that had to
Right.
align. So I started with 2 groups 8 years ago, which has now become my full-time work of using this assessment tool and curriculum in one-on-one and small group engagements.
Well, it's cool because I didn't tell you this before, we jumped online here, but I used to work for a company. I was a CMO a while back who had an assessment tool, and they didn't really call it thought habits, but something thought patterns was their verb or their descriptor, and then they called them not grooves but ruts. So I've been in the lane,
Oh,
and I was like, but to tell you, I had to leave the company because once I really kind of examined the assessment and all, I was like, I don't think it really is what it is,
mm,
or what it should be. And it sounds like you've come to what it should be. So let's talk again, because like I really want to geek out with you. Um, Thought habits. How
mhm.
do they happen and what is the impact? You said that it really causes exhaustion, there it's a lot of work and everything, but like how do we get there? We're not born with these, right?
No, I think I can most easily tell you in a story that I share in my book of a client as an example. She was raised in a home with a parent who was an addict. And so at a very young age, she was parenting her siblings. She was paying the bills, she was buying the gifts, signing the, permission slips, making sure people had lunch money, running the house. And I think what happens, she was surviving, right? But she was really good at it and very competent, hyper functioning. What happens is the grooves in your brain that are saying, like, oh, I probably shouldn't have to do this, but I'm doing it to survive anyhow, become pretty deep. These grooves that say, if you just work hard, really hard, you can get yourself basically out of any situation in life, um, which did serve her very well. And she went on to build her own business, which is when I met her 25 years later. She's working 80 hours a week. She doesn't know when to go home and stop working. But here's what had happened: the grooves in her brain that said, you survive with really hard work and by taking care of everyone around you, well, those were survival grooves that she needed at a certain point in her life. But when you employ a survival mechanism past the point of really needing it, it becomes damaging and detrimental.
Hmm, great.
And so that's where she was now, that very same pattern of subconscious thinking that she wasn't saying out loud. She didn't know that's what she was doing. She had no indicator saying, I've worked enough. I don't need to be this available to my clients. It was legitimately going to actually cause physically harm to her if she kept on going in this same groove. And so a lot of our work was about uncovering, well, one, how did the groove start, and being really compassionate. Of course you have that groove,
Right.
right? What's the replacement in this new season of life that allows you to thrive and live a more balanced, peaceful existence? So that's an example of like how a subconscious habit of thinking can help you survive in one environment, but then you continue it, and it can become really detrimental.
Yeah. So, it's a great example, and one of the things that you put in there is that once you identify kind of what is the pattern or the groove, then you can start to say, okay, I'm going to replace it with something that's more productive. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you figure out, I mean, you have the assessment to figure out what the groove is, but how do you figure out what to replace? And can you give me an example of like, what did she do? What did this one person or somebody do to kind of
Yeah,
take the next step forward?
100%. Usually, the antidote to this particular example is something that I identify in the book as scheduled guilt-free playtime, which you don't help an overworker by saying you have to stop at a certain time, because they'll just ignore it. That there will be a reason that they can quickly override that. What you do is you start to schedule things that they love to do and that are fun and life-giving that they look forward to in their day on a regular basis. So even when we first started working together, I said, what would be like your dream? She said, I'd love to take Fridays off in the summer. It would be my dream, is just to be able to, they live near a lake, and, just to do the summer thing. And I said, okay, let's do it. And she about, it was about a panic, right? I said, no, I just triple dog dare you to try this just for the summer, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Say, I'm taking off Fridays in the summer. And so that was our first work together. She was, when I say terrified, understand that your brain is legit screaming, danger, 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 danger. This is how you survived. And now you're telling me not to do it. So nothing about it feels comfortable. I mean, even though like you may enjoy going to the lake, you still will feel the resistance to it. What has happened since in her work and life is that her business has quadrupled in size. She takes regular vacations 4 times a year now. She takes every Friday off in the summer. She's working fewer hours than ever before.
Isn't
But
it crazy how that
it's
works, right? It's amazing.
crazy. It's
But
crazy.
well, it is crazy in some ways, right? Like, because it just
Yeah.
doesn't make intuitive sense. But forgive me here. I think that it took me a really long time to appreciate that our brains need that downtime to be better. And the
Yes.
more we push them, we, being in survival mode is not a good thinking mode. So, you got to give it some
No.
time.
And the play creates new grooves in your brain. It solves problems subconsciously. It creates opportunities. It creates ideas. You will receive more inspired ideas. You will show up for the people you serve with more energy. It's just this elevation that happens when you honor that guilt-free play. So yeah, there is sort of a rewiring that takes place, that is a different way of being in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my sister said to me the other day, she loves to read, and she goes, I sit down to read these days, and I always feel guilty that there's so many other things to get done. And I said to her, you have to do those things for you to be optimal. You have to. I mean, I even explained to a girlfriend of mine who said something similar. You're building a plaque in your brain with all that cortisol shooting through it all the time. You need to give your brain time to clean itself, and it only does that when you're sleeping or you're relaxing.
Yes.
And she
We're like
the relief on
engaged
their
in
face,
the,
right? I think
yes,
such a joy to see. You gave them permission to actually, do something.
yes, yes. And when you're engaged in the kinds of activities where you can't think about your work. So, I mean, I always say playing cards, taking a bike ride. I play a lot of pickleball. Like when I'm out there, when I'm playing, I can't think about my work. It gives my brain a break. And when you are an obsessive thinker in particular, this is actually one of your life strategies that will keep your body and spirit and mind healthier for longer, is scheduled guilt-free play, where it's like on your calendar, you're meeting someone, you cannot miss it play.
I love it. Scheduled, guilt-free playtime. I love it.
Yes.
I gotta just trademark that. That's fantastic. So, you work with somebody like the example and other women, and do you work with men this is, you said small group and then one-on-one. So like what's a typical, how do people like engage you,
Yeah.
but like how does this work for most people?
Yeah, I love that. So most of my clients are women. I do have one-on-one clients that are men, but my group settings are 8 to 10 women who work through this curriculum. I do sort of like college. I do spring and fall semesters. So I'm summers off, breaks off, but I start in the January, February, and run through May, and then I start in the fall. The groups are women from all over the country. So, for example, like this semester, I have people from 10 different states in my groups. They're from all different professional backgrounds. It's kind of fun to have fresh perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And yet to see that, oh, we are kind of having a similar experience, even though you may be leading a nonprofit and I'm working as a something in corporate America. we're experiencing a lot of the same challenges, and we can journey together and really learn from one another. So that was actually the core concept around which the business started, was just the groups. It's kind of funny. I thought it would just be in person when I started. I didn't know I wasn't starting a business, right? Like I didn't know. And so what happened that was so cool is that I sort of got passed along, and then COVID happened. And so it transferred into Zoom, which then allowed me to move into different geographic areas also. So it's kind of cool how it played out. My one-on-one engagements are 12 sessions with a client one-on-one that I work through the same curriculum. It's just a deeper, more personalized dive. And for some of my higher level leaders, either their work is very public and you can't just talk about it in a group setting, even if you don't know the people, it's just not appropriate. Or maybe just they've evolved to a place where they have some specific things that they really need to work on. And so one-on-one's a better option.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a little bit of a break to give our sponsor some opportunity to say hello. And at the end, of course, I'm going to ask you to tell everyone how they can reach you if they do want to engage in some kind of a group or one-on-one environment. But I want to come back and ask you this one big magical question, which is like, how does somebody even know? You have an assessment, I know, but like, is there a sign or something that goes, oh, that is not a good serving thought habit, so that they can at
Mm.
least identify that they should take the assessment. So I'm going to come back in a couple of minutes and we'll do that. Want to level up your confidence, your career, maybe even your coaching? Well, then head over to AmericanConfidenceInstitute.com. E-classes are there, as well as our coaching certification program, and you don't need any coaching experience to do it. However, if you are an experienced coach, you can get ICF and SHRM continuing credit. It's fast and easy. If you work in an organization, consider bringing in a kick-ass keynote or a uniquely engaging workshop. We also have team learning programs, and they all apply to both your personal and professional life, which makes them really special. They're great for ERGs, the leaders, the member programming, or really any type of professional learning and development in your organization. So give us a holler at www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com. Amy, I knew when I read your bio and some of the information you sent that we were going to be friends. And it's hilarious because you triple dog dare before. I actually double dog dare somebody today. So
I'm
we
taking it
are
up a notch.
absolutely, we're not just neuro nerds, we're just nerds. I'm just saying that. All right, so here we are. We're back. And I kind of tempted you to think a little bit about if somebody's listening to this podcast and they're like, "Ooh, I wonder if I have a negative thought habit," and should they take the assessment? Like, is there a sign or something that is a obvious tell that they may benefit from figuring
Yeah.
out?
I will tell you, there are a couple of cross sections where I meet the majority of my clients. One of them is in a transition, whether there's something that you've been doing for a period of time that has lost its luster. You can't, the same things that you used to do that you loved just are feeling either just you have nothing for them anymore, and you don't know why or where the passion went. But I think all of us experience at certain points in our professional journey a transition, and we never ask for it and often don't want it. We often, just like me, I didn't know I was starting a new business. I wasn't I wasn't ready for that, but I also knew, oh, I wasn't having the same passion for the work I had been doing, and then this thing showed up, this new thing, right? So there's that, the transition. The other is when you are hungry for more income. You want the promotion, you want more influence, you want more impact, you want the growth of the business. And yet there is no more time or energy that you have to work. Where the core message of my book is that you can't outwork your thought habits. Because believe me, if you could, I would have. If anyone could have done that, it would have been me. Hard work was not the problem. So it's the person who has done some stuff. She's worked and built something or gotten to a certain place.
Hmm.
still has ambition to go further, but there's this realization that I can't give any more of me. There's no more hours there. I don't have any more energy. So then what do I do? And it requires a kind of growing of you inside that maybe the first part of your journey didn't require.
I love it. I love it. So either you are feeling like it may be time to do something different, or you're doing something that is just not is not getting to the place you wanted to get. But those are both good signs for somebody to say, maybe there's
Yeah.
some thoughts that are some patterns and habits that I need to change to unlock some of the potential in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Ah, all right, so book. Let's talk about the book. I See You is your book.
Mhm. Yeah.
And to reach you and find the book, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can find the book anywhere you buy books. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org, wherever you can have them order it from small independent bookstores. Uh, so you can get the book anywhere. It's also on Audible. So it is my voice. People often ask me that. And a lot of my quote unquote readers are listeners. They really enjoy the content. This book is conversational and it is not a series of like a master bringing knowledge to you. It feels more like a coaching session with me feels. That's the feedback I've gotten from people. I feel like I'm sitting with you at a coffee shop and having a conversation. And so I think you'll enjoy the listening if you're a listener.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And finding you in the assessment, how can they do that?
Oh, perfect. You can find the assessment at Amy Kemp, so my name, AMYKEMP.com. And the assessment is free to take. It takes about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. It does work from your phone, but I always recommend if you have a computer to take it from a computer. It's a little bit of a different way that you toggle. And so anyhow, it's great. And you get your results. It's a really detailed results that you get right away sent to you. So I just encourage everyone, if you want to know what's happening and just to see a picture of what's happening in your brain, it's a great first step.
I love it. I'm It's so cool. I feel like I have a new thought buddy here. So thank you so much for coming into my world, but thank you for entering all the people's brains that we are podcasting to. So really appreciate you being here today, and congratulations on building the business, and what an exciting opportunity and business that you have. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Before we totally wrap up, I want to let you know that full transcripts and show notes for this and other Real Confidence episodes can be found on www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com/podcast. I also want to remind you once again that the best way to get confidence is to give it to others, and you can do it just by liking and sharing this episode on your preferred podcast and social media channels. You can even give me some confidence by noting topics you'd like me to consider for the future. So for now, this is Alyssa DeVere. Thank you for helping to bring more confidence to the world. Master editing done by Ben Weinstein, with original music performed and composed by Jeff Mitchell. Real Confidence is a production of American Confidence Institute. All rights reserved.